High heart rate, right? Knee problems, keep getting shin splints, got a tight IT band. That's exactly where I was just a few weeks ago. In this video, I want to talk about the steps that I took to get my form in a better shape. And I gotta tell you, in the 33 years on this planet, I've never enjoyed running. And because I fixed my form, I am truly enjoying running. Now I can run longer, farther, with less energy, and it keeps my heart rate down. And even to the fact that I'm actually feeling relief when I go for a run, which is so bizarre and against anything that I've ever experienced in the past. And I gotta tell you, I played college baseball, I used to play rugby, I've done a half and a full marathon in the past, but anytime there's running involved, it's more of a grind. I look forward to it now because of how my form has been fixed. I wanna talk about first the why. My big thing when I'm trying to correct something or learn something is I gotta understand the why based on my own competencies. Like, I'm not a running expert by any means, but what I do understand is science, and I understand physics. I understand the why we want to do certain corrections to running forms. And then I'm going to talk about what was wrong with my running form. A lot of it has to do with common denominators and common issues across the board for every runner. And then lastly, I want to talk about the corrective actions and then other resources I've used beyond my own personal coaching and personal analysis. I'm going to go for a run first, and then we're going to get into the video. Oh, boom. Check that out. 6 miles. Oh. Before we get into all the science and everything first, I just want to show you some stats, okay? So it's not just me talking about how I got better at running, I have actually quantifiable evidence that I am. Before I went to Run Lab and started doing the exercises, I was doing 100% rear foot striking. And I know this because I use these things called Nerve Run insoles. And what they do is they slip under your existing insoles, and they got pressure sensors. And then the pressure sensors are transmitted into these little devices, and it measures throughout the run. And now I'm at almost 100% midfoot striking. The other thing, let's talk about cadence. So elite runners are anywhere in the neighborhood of 175 to as much as 200 strikes per minute. Before I started running, was at 139, meaning I was using a lot of force to push myself off and just constantly propel myself, almost like I'm hopping. Now I'm in the neighborhood of 170 on up strikes per minute. And then lastly, my heart rate. I was talking about that high heart rate because I was constantly just banging my foot against the ground. Now, on very easy runs, I'm actually around 120 beats per minute, and that is a nice, relaxing recovery run at the same rate before that I was at 155 beats per minute. That is wild. All right, now shower, and then we're gonna talk about physics time. So for me, because I am not someone who is an experienced runner or has a subject matter expertise in the realm of running, I need to boil it down to what I do understand, which is science, which is physics, and how momentum should work. So for example, let's look at someone who has probably considered the most efficient and one of the most beautiful running forms that you could possibly see, Eliud Kipchoge. He is the only human to break the 2-hour barrier for running a marathon. It's hard to fathom just how fast and how long you can keep up that pace. A lot of people out there even do the Eliud Kipchoge challenge. So let's understand the physics of running. When we're running, what we're doing is we're trying to propel ourselves forward. With my poor running form, what I was doing was putting too much of the force into the ground rather than going forward. Here's another term, it's called vertical oscillation, which is how much your body is bouncing up and down during a run, which means that if you're going up more than you should be, you're actually putting too much force up than you are forward. So there are two things to think about. Too much force up, too much force into the ground, and not enough forward momentum. So when you look at Eliud Kipchoge and the way his foot just finishes this cycle and just claws back and propels forward, and his head just seems to remain still, it looks effortless, because it pretty much is. It's effort less than what most runners do. So this is something I needed to understand looking at these elite and beautiful runners. If you watch Kipchoge, it almost looks like art, because it kind of is. It's the state of the art of running. All right, so now we're back in the garage to wrap up this video. So like I said earlier, I wanna first recap what the big 4 problems were with my running. I'm sure there's a lot more. I'm not gonna go too much into detail. This is just a recap. If you want more detail on these big 4 things, go check out Running Vlog episode 2. And in fact, check the whole series as I chronicle my journey from being a shitty runner to a somewhat adequate runner. So the big 4. 1, overstriding. This is a common thing for a lot of people. We're not finishing this clawback motion. Number 2 is the heel strike. And that's what led to just this tremendous amount of force up my leg, which was causing my knee problems and shin splints. Number 3, I've got a hip shift, which is an imbalance of muscle. And that's something I'm gonna talk about with the tools that I've bought to help generate better balance. And number 4 was this weird heel whip, which has been corrected by the tools given to me to correct the overstriding and the heel strike. Back to the physics of running. I understand it's common sense. A lot of people will be like, hey, you got to let your momentum carry you. No shit. But actually putting it into practice and understanding it through the actual practical applicability of understanding the physics was a whole different thing. And if this is something you understand, then hey, you're a hell of a lot smarter than me. But let's go back to my overstriding. So Dr. Roden at Run Lab was calling it like landing like a peg leg pirate. So I was coming forward, putting my foot out, but I wasn't finishing this motion. Instead, I would go out, it would stop my momentum, and then I would have to re-engage that energy to go forward, which led to the high heart rate. So instead, the exercise I was given was to pretty much practice a standing in place, getting used to this bicycle motion, just finishing, making sure I'm not stopping and pretty much hopping from foot to foot, but instead finishing my motion and just standing in place and working on that, and then getting just a little forward lean like I am actually running, and it just helps with the chair. And I was doing this at my stand-up desk, doing this in my kitchen, doing this whenever I could find time, just because I wanted the muscle memory. I become obsessed with things. So just practicing it with both feet. And then I realized, you know what it reminded me of is Sonic the Hedgehog when his wheels get spinning, or like the old Looney Tunes when they would run and their legs would just start getting into this wheel shape, because that's what it is. Just like cycling, like I love to cycle, and it just makes sense to finish that motion. And what this did was get me to stop overstriding, because that's what it is, and to stop my heel strike. Because when I claw back and finish, that's what lands on my midfoot. And I was practicing just very slowly. So first in place, then very slowly, almost feeling like I'm learning to walk again, because basically I am. And then from there, continuing visit, working with a coach, I would start learning the A skips, the B skips, the exchanges, and all the different other warm-up exercises that I do today. I'm not gonna be the one to teach you those, but I will refer you to Sherry Hawkins' Instagram and her YouTube channel, which I've come to love, because she's a Team USA track athlete, and her videos have just been a good resource, phenomenal. So go check out those. And those are the exact tools I was given to help correct this. And through those corrections is exactly what led to lower heart rate and higher cadence. Because as I come to finish it, I'm lowering my ground contact time, and I'm using less energy to propel my momentum forward because I'm letting it carry me. So because I focused on those drills, felt the relief, it transferred. Now, the hip shift and the imbalance. This is what relieved my knee pain. So as I was running and my heel would strike, the force would come up, it would hit my knees on lockout pretty much, and then it would cause shin splints. And I used to blame shin splints on shoes and just everything except for my own damn fault. So working on balance. So when I would come forward now on my landing, I'm landing more underneath, which is what you see in like a Kipchoge run, and I'm engaging my big muscles and not my joints. It's my glutes and my quads. Now, I've always felt my quads, but my glutes were never really engaged in the past when I run. And I should have thought of that, because some of these runners got big old wagons back there, and it makes a lot of sense. So now on my runs, I'm pretty much retraining my body, and I feel it a lot more. So now I have to work on balance, because when you're running, you're constantly putting all your weight and your momentum on one leg at a time. And everyone's got a weakness. Like I've got a right dominant side And my left is causing that weird hip shift because I have to compensate it for the weakness with my right. So I'll put a link in the description for these, but I've got 2 tools that I used at the Run Lab, and that's this foam pad where I come in and I work on it. So I'm doing, instead of just like heavy squats all the time, I'm doing a lot more unilateral workouts. So balancing on here first, and then balancing on my left, which is definitely less stable, and then also a more challenging board. And both of these are pretty cheap, which helps work on all the stabilizing muscles needed to help run. And then finally, quiet feet. So this is what's helping with vertical oscillation. So again, just to recap the physics, I need to put as much force forward than I am into the ground and up. And the way I'm doing that with this exercise is quiet feet and just allowing my body to absorb the force as it goes in the ground. So before I used to clip clop around and sound like a Clydesdale. So now with these exercises, it's stepping off and then trying to be as quiet as possible as I come off, which is engaging my quads and my glutes. And then doing it with one leg, and then doing it with the other leg, and just constantly working on these exercises. So now when I go run, I don't hear as loud as footsteps. But these exercises have allowed me to understand what I should be feeling in each of these muscles and then translate it to the runs, which has just been tremendous and so awesome to feel. So that's it for this video. I'm gonna put all the resources that I constantly refer to. Again, I'm no expert. I'm just sharing what I've learned for beginners because I'm on the same path as you guys out there. Thanks for watching.